Look here, smart guy. Look here, smart guy. Look here, fat. We ought to go to capitalism to solve this coronavirus crisis. Just get Big Pharma to produce the vaccine. What the fuck, Big Pharma? Y'all don't have a research and development department? Produce the vaccine right now and then give it freely to the entire world. After we get it, of course. That would be redeeming to Big Pharma if they did that. The government isn't going to do shit. They're going to pull a King Henry VIII and hide in his house until the bubonic plague is over. Just let capitalism take care of coronavirus. Just let capitalism take care of the pollution and the poverty. Also, Donald isn't going to force the companies to make coronavirus supplies. The U.S. and Mexico, we're going to restrict non-essential travel, though, along the border. Big shocker there. First, restrict travel with Europe so it doesn't seem like it's racist when he does it with Mexico. We're going to keep up with the economic embargo on Iran and Cuba's medical supplies and lung cancer vaccines and their technology to end mother-to-child HIV and syphilis transfusion. All their patents in life-saving medicine. We're really punishing Cuba, making sure that life-saving medicine doesn't get to the United States. Donald is assuring us there's no martial law coming. Sounds like, was it that Chamberlain moment? But the authoritarian, fascist, totalitarian lockdown, like what New York and California are doing right now, they've shut down. They've locked down New York. They've shut down California. But Donald's basically saying, well, they've already shut it down. So there's no martial law coming. That's what he said. That's what he said, no martial law coming. So, apparently American fascism isn't the overt authoritarian, fascist, totalitarian lockdown like California and New York are doing. So, yeah, just let pure laissez-faire, casino-style capitalism. Just let capitalism fix this crisis. The markets can fix themselves. The magical hand of the free market. What the hell? We're not supposed to believe in tariffs. We believe in free trade. We're not going to bail out the casinos, bail out the hotels, bail out the airline industry. My God, some sink, some swim. That's capitalism, baby. You shouldn't have invested in that company. If that company goes belly up, if it goes for small business, if small business goes belly up, if a working class goes belly up, who bails us out? Sometimes you're profitable and sometimes you got to file bankruptcy and then pick up whatever crumbs you can at the very end. Tulsi Gabbard is going to go with the neoliberal corporate consensus around Joe Biden. She didn't have to endorse, but this is big news. She's dropping out of the race. If she's not the vice presidential pick, I'm very disappointed. But Bernie Sanders did not treat Tulsi Gabbard right. Tulsi Gabbard stood by Bernie Sanders when nobody else did. He could have shown the same solidarity back with her. He could have protested the debates when they didn't allow her to get on the debate stage. He debated next to Mike Bloomberg, but not to Tulsi Gabbard. Bernie's a lifelong politician, career politician. His relationship with Joe Biden is more important to him than beating and smashing Joe on his perverted behavior or his litany of neoliberal policies. Joe's been an accident of history, cutting deals here and there, never standing for anything principled. Public finance elections, the only decent progressive idea I've ever come out of Joe's mouth I've ever heard. So Joe is awful. He appeals to a conservative, right-wing, democratic middle class. Tulsi playing the game of politics, once again, being a dutiful soldier for the Democratic Party, backing the presumptive nominee. Bernie didn't seem to give her much of a choice, and ultimately isn't that what Bernie's about to do? Isn't Bernie about to endorse Joe Biden? Didn't he say that over and over again? Didn't he sign that pledge? Didn't he do that 4 years ago? Mike Pence is telling everybody to just stay the fuck home. He says if you test positive, stay the fuck home. And then everybody in that household stay the fuck home. So if anybody in the house tests positive, everybody stays home. Social distance inside the house, social distance in the community. Only 10 people should be in groups. No more than 10 people in a group. Go to drive-thrus. Mike Pence is encouraging Americans to go to drive-thrus. It's actually pretty sedentary if you think about it. It's so fast food, keep their drive-thrus open, feeds many people. He also asked construction companies to donate surgical masks to hospitals, and they've done it. They've done this. So this is a fantastic success for Mike Pence. He's got more surgical masks, and they're going to ship them out to all the states. Steve Mnuchin, he is saying that the U.S. government is going to freeze foreclosures. Nobody should lose their house. At this point, he wants to offer liquidity to American workers and businesses. Liquidity, keep saying that, liquidity. Also, we're going to print up a bunch of commercial paper. Steve says millionaires won't get a $1,000 check. So that's a means test. That's added bureaucracy. Give everybody $1,000. If you're an American, you get $1,000 bucks. That's just how it should be. You're an American? Okay. Here's your $1,000. Steve says that some of America is shut down, but other parts of America are booming. When asked about equity stakes, which is getting a piece of the pie, buying some stocks into these companies, so let's say for Marriott Hotels or Spirit Airlines, they're, asking the government to bail them out. If the government bails them out, why shouldn't they own a piece of the pie? Why shouldn't they try to nationalize some of these industries? And so by getting a large purchase of their stocks, the government can then own a piece of the pie. Steve said that the $1 trillion package is not a bailout for the industries. It's a bailout for Americans, but not for the banks or the airlines or the hotels or any industries. Steve was pretty, shitty. He was pretty terrible on camera, easily annoyed, stuck up, rushed off quickly somewhere else. He had to go somewhere. Okay, see you later. All right, that's we got to hear Steve talk for a minute. I guess that's, thank you, Steve, for, basking us, privileging us with your presence. So the one big Wall Street sinkhole, at first I thought it was just printing paper, $2.5 trillion. It wasn't in cash. So Wall Street did get $2.5 trillion, so it was more than $1.5 trillion, but it's not in cash. It wasn't quantitative easing. It wasn't just printing money up. It's loans. So the $2.5 trillion that Wall Street got were loans that were opened up to American banks, and it only helped Wall Street for an hour, and then Wall Street kept on crashing, even after this announcement. So it's, a bucket in the crack of a dam that held for an hour, but, the major water flow went ahead and pushed on through, and still we have, a massive dam breakage about to flood the town at the bottom. So the United States have been running a $1 trillion deficit every single year. $1 trillion motherfucking dollars. We're talking about trillions here, so Jesus Christ. The U.S. government's got some terrible spending habits, especially the Republicans. They always run up the debt, and they run up the deficit more than the Democrats, which is quite remarkable, to be honest with you. There's 12% in poverty in the United States. That's 35 million Americans who've been given a poverty death sentence. We got $1 trillion worth of deficit. Every single year we have $1 trillion, deficit, and $22 trillion in debt in 2018, $23 trillion in debt by the end of 2019. So we are $23 trillion in debt. $23 trillion in debt. And we've already given this $2.5 trillion, loan sort of shake-up, however that, shakes out. We've already spent $8 billion, then $100 billion, and now they're working on just a straight-up $1 trillion spending bill. $1 trillion. So we already got $23 trillion that we're in debt, right? And like I said, 12% poverty, 35 million Americans, $1 trillion deficit. So on top of the $23 trillion, just add another $1.5 trillion or $3 trillion. Who gives a fuck, right? Just keep on piling trillions on top of the goddamn debt. Who's going to pay for all this? Nobody's asking this question. Who's paying for any of this? Socialism. We're going to be, cashing checks for the American people? Limited UBI. That's not far enough. But who's going to be paying for all this? Nobody's asking this, but this is trillions of dollars. We're spending trillions of dollars. So this public option loan to the banks, right? So it's $2.5 trillion that happened on March 12th and the 13th. I just looked into it, further. So it's not like you could have used that money straight up for the student, debt or what have you. But it seems like it's some kind of, accounting trick. So it's not quantitative easing. I don't think so. But I think the Federal Reserve is, going to do some commercial paper making. I think some facilities, they're going to make up some commercial paper factories, and they're going to be printing up, trillions of loans of commercial paper. So fake loans that's not secured by shit, short-term loans to help them out. So I don't know, but 2.5 trillion is not the same as the spending thing. So 1 trillion is about to come up. At least 1 trillion. The Bank of America says there should be no ceiling. Why only 1 trillion? Why not 2, 3, 4, 5, 16 trillion? Who gives a shit? Let's bankrupt the shit out of America and our, future generations. Let's make sure our grandchildren are being taxed to death where they don't even have a chance. Jerome Powell is the chair of the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell, J. Powell, Jerome Powell. This is an important name to remember because he's the chair of the Federal Reserve. He is the captain of the Bank of America. So who the fuck is Jerome Powell? According to Donald Trump, Jerome Powell is the enemy of the people, worse than China, than President Xi, right? So Jerome Powell is a bigger threat to America than China is. This according to our president, Yang Fear. Donald said Jerome Powell is pathetic and slow-moving, and that's the guy that Donald had nominated, and then eventually the Senate had confirmed. Damn, right in front of Donald's face, right in front of his face. So a few facts about Jerome Powell, 67 years old. He's a Republican. The D.C. was a lawyer, 16th chair of the Federal Reserve. 16th. There's only been 16 chairs. So we got this old-ass Republican from D.C., lawyer. Donald nominated him. Senate confirmed him. He lives in Chevy Chase, Maryland, United States. The celebrity Chevy Chase is the name of this town, and he's even part of the Chevy Chase Country Club, and he's worth $20 million at least, $20 million plus. So Jerome Powell is a millionaire, 67 years old, Republican, born in D.C., lawyer, and he's got 5 siblings. I wonder if he's been a good brother these days. I wonder what his 5 siblings have been up to. And he's a Jesuit. He went to Jesuit school as a kid, so he's a hardcore Catholic. 20 millionaire plus, old-ass, 67, Republican, D.C. lawyer who Donald Trump says is the enemy of the people. So that's who we got running the Bank of America, the actual Bank of America, not the corporation, but the government's bank, the Federal Reserve. Now, I want to mention something about Hillary Clinton, because she said Bernie's campaign is baloney. It's baloney. So what? It's bullshit. His whole campaign is just like, so actually being real and promising real policy solutions, that's bullshit. That's baloney to Hillary. Hillary's going to tell Howard Stern that Bernie's campaign is like promising recess for all day or free chocolate milk for everybody. Those are actually fantastic popular policies. Why shouldn't our schools be for us, or why shouldn't the schools be for the students? Those are great policy solutions. Have recess all day. That would do the American children better than authoritarian totalitarianism all goddamn day long. And also free chocolate milk. Why should poor kids even have to chalk up a quarter or a buck to, whatever it costs today for some chocolate milk? Milk is good for their, it's good for them. They should be able to eat healthy, and it shouldn't, we're charging kids. A poor-ass kid has got to chalk up some cash in order to just to eat and have a healthy diet. That's insane. But nobody asks about how we're going to pay, how's that poor kid going to pay for his lunch? Nobody asks, who gives a shit, right? He must pay for it. So they do ask that question, but how are we going to, pay for any of these trillions of dollars just taxing our grandchildren? If we truly believe in the free market, just like Adam Smith said, just let the magical free hand of the market, just unleash capitalism. And I guarantee you, right, this is what all these right-wing economists, they say that capitalism will solve all this. So there is some spending that I disagree with. The commercial paper, I think it's bullshit. The $200 billion for facilities for the Federal Reserve. So I don't think that the Federal Reserve is the U.S. bank. We're going to give our bank $200 billion. Jesus Christ, Federal Reserve, print up your own fucking money and then make your own facilities. We're not going to give you $200 billion. You figure out some. And we should audit the Fed. We're going to give the Fed $200 billion? Where does it come from? It's coming from the Fed. So we give them permission to print it. Like, And then the commercial paper thing, this isn't a layman tactic. This is a big blue chip stock, big corporate financial services, industries. This is what they do. You're telling me commercial paper? Nobody knows what the fuck commercial paper is. But that's what Steve Mnuchin, this is the White House solution. We're going to print up a bunch of commercial paper. And I wonder if it's the $200 billion for brand new facilities for the Federal Reserve is to print up the commercial paper, build those factories to print up commercial paper. They're promissory notes, so they're loans, but they're unsecured loans. And apparently they were created in 1990, I think, or 90s. I think 1990 they were created, and they help big financial, it helps the money market with their short-term investing and shit. So it's kind of crazy that everybody's a bunch of socialists right now when we could just rely on capitalism to save us all. Just good old, true blue dog-eat-dog, some sink, some swim, rough and tumble, wild, wild west casino-style capitalism. Won't the market just adjust itself? The magical free hand of the market. Why are we going to go ahead and save the airline industries? Let Spirit Airlines and Delta and all those sink, and then brand new companies will come that will be smarter and better, and they can run their company to where what? This little tiny flu? Oh, a little flu is going to end casinos. A little tiny flu is going to end the hotel industry. Hotels charge you $100 for a fucking room, and they treat you like shit anyways. Let them damn hotels fail. So the unemployment is going up. So there's $300 billion being proposed from the White House that's going to go to small businesses. And it's a loan forgiveness for businesses who keep employees on the payroll. And so $300 billion may actually just get distributed to small businesses who just keep their employees on the payroll. Don't let them, quit. Don't let them go unemployed. If they get the coronavirus, let them leave for a sick leave and then take them back. And if you need to, a loan in order to pay them, get the loan. And the government is saying that they may or may not pay you back. So $300 billion for small businesses, that's a good idea on paper. So how, the devil's in the details, how it actually gets implemented. But the $200 billion for the facilities for the Federal Reserve, no. I have too many questions for the Federal Reserve and their facilities. $200 billion. $200 billion. And really it's just an accounting trick. So it's just to print up new pieces of paper. You all have a lot of machines that can print up pieces of paper already. You don't need $200 billion from the American people. The Federal Reserve, give the American bank, the U.S. Centralized bank, the government's bank, $200 billion. Aren't they the ones that print up the damn monies anyways? And $100 billion is being proposed by the White House for secured loans for the airline industry and other industries and equity stakes for federal government. I'm in favor of this. I'm being tongue-in-cheek with the capitalism thing because how absurd. Who honestly would actually say, what we need right now is wild, wild west casino-style capitalism? Who would actually suggest that? Like being serious. Oh, man. So $20 billion, they say, is supposed to go to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. $20 billion. There's low oil prices these days, and the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, this is Steve Mnuchin. This is the White House. Emergency fuel storage of petroleum. That's what the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is. It's an emergency fuel storage of petroleum maintained underground in Louisiana and Texas. It's underground solution mine salt caverns. It's the largest emergency supply in the world with the capacity to hold up to 727 million barrels. So the White House says we need to give $20 billion to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. I'm actually kind of partial to this somewhat to keep the oil companies going and they keep on making stuff and shit and whatnot. But basically we're buying oil from West Texas and we're delivering it to East Texas so they can, refine it and make it into whatever it is they're going to make it into. It also helps the small and medium-sized oil producers. It helps Latin America and the Middle East. So we're going to help the Saudi Arabians, finance their Yemeni genocide by buying the cheap oil that's out on the market right now. Saudi Arabia has, dropped their oil prices to dirt cheap levels, helping the, world economy out, making sure America doesn't fail. So Saudis are really, doing Donald Trump and the U.S. government a solid here. So, yeah, right now, Donald Trump has actually ordered 77 million barrels of oil. So they've already gone through with this thing. So sweet and sour crude oil with a focus on small to mid-sized oil producers. The Department of Energy. The Department of Energy is the one that's buying the 77 million barrels of oil. It's going into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, almost maxing out the maximum amount of barrels. 630 million barrels are in there now. And so what, just 20 more million on top of the 77 million? And it's full, so it's almost at capacity. And it seems like we're dipping into the SPR if we're letting small and medium-sized companies produce it. So it seems like this could be a continuing expense, right? They could be buying, 77 million barrels of oil every single month to help the oil company keep on going. Because ultimately, that helps 77 million barrels of oil. That helps ultimately because it stimulates the economy, but it's only 6 days worth of Permian Basin production. And that's not enough for the small and medium-sized crude oil producers. 6 days worth of work, that's it. They need more than 6 days worth of work. So, people, it could be a good start, perhaps. I don't know. But 18% of the SPR is domestic oil, including the Alaskan North Slope oil. So it would help Alaska out too, right? Helping the Saudis out, helping the Texans and the Louisianians and the Alaskans out, and their companies and their employees, and kind of helping get America going, right? We're kind of addicted to oil. We need oil and gasoline to power our vehicles. So Steve says they're going to allow companies to roll over their commercial paper. And I'll just talk just barely on this. Yeah, I'll talk barely on it. Essentially, I don't know what the fuck commercial paper is. I don't know what the fuck commercial paper is. But just a couple things. I looked at the definition and, looked at some videos. So I got a sense of what it, kind of is. It's a tool for big blue chips, big blue companies. And so for your big multinational corporations, this is how they get short-term loans. They somehow generate money out of this. And so the money market is a market of short-term loans, your treasury bills, certificate of deposits, bills of exchange, deposits itself, bankers' acceptances, federal funds, repurchasing agreements, short-term mortgages, asset-backed securities, and commercial paper are all on the money market. So you got this money market of short-term loans, and the commercial paper is a part of this money market. So this is blue-chip, big-ass companies, corporations, multinational, global financial companies. These are the big boys, right? They use this shit in order to, short-term bonds for the essentials, such as inventory. So just to kind of get them, grease their palms a little bit, get their, their gears moving, and get the machine working so that, get to producing and making money. So, but apparently the commercial paper market is bad, and they want folks to go back to using commercial paper option. So short-term bonds for essentials such as inventory, which sounds like that would be good for even small businesses, but I don't feel like small businesses know about this. Commercial paper, they're in the money market, so that's, just put that in your memory bank. Commercial paper is in the money market. So Steve Mnuchin announced that, do we need to create more commercial paper? He announced that we do need to create it. And so commercial paper, paper that's being used commercially, what the fuck is this thing? So Federal Reserve is going to get $200 billion to make a bunch of fake money factories. We're just going to, not even money, we're producing commercial paper. So fake, promise IOUs. Here's a bunch of, IOUs, and this is supposed to, well, I think we should use $200 billion to build hospitals, build some schools, quarantine people, use it for medicine, vaccines, and all this stuff. But to give the Federal Reserve $200 billion to make factories to produce commercial paper, let the free market take care of these two big to fail, terrible fucking dinosaurs. The free market is supposed to take care of these assholes. We keep propping up these two big to fail, terrible dinosaurs when the free market has loudly declared that they deserve to be sunk. They should not be in, the American economy. They are not profitable. Then do not pass go. Go directly to jail. You get bankrupted and you're gone. You're out of the game. Create a different corporation, and then let's see if another new corporation can come up and do a better job. Or just nationalize the damn thing and just let America run, the airline industry. Steve says also to use the drive-thru, so they're really pushing fast food. Steve in the White House and Mike Pence says use the drive-thrus, right? And they also said use the apps in order, order in advance. Use the apps to order in advance. Use the drive-thrus. And then basically Steve's main point was that the markets are open. So they're worried about credit markets. So apparently there's a lot of people and corporations that can borrow money to get where they need to go, but most Americans don't have that option. Most Americans can't borrow $10,000 to start a business. These private corporations and these bankers, they'll fuck you over just by getting a checking account, let alone you actually, signing some promissory note or some loan with them. They're a bunch of crooks. They're a bunch of hawks. But Steve says the markets are open, 401k, stocks and bonds, and he says he's on the phone with the banks and the New York Stock Exchange all the time. So it's all, just hunky-dory. Go out there. Actually, it might be a good time to buy stocks. Wait for the stock market to bottom out, and then as soon as it crashes or bottoms out, then you buy a bunch of cheap-ass stock. And that's what, Donald says that the corporations cannot do. They cannot buy back their own stock at this, very cheap rate. It has to be bought by the American people. So that actually could be a good investment, right? You buy low, sell high. So it's very, very low right now. So Wall Street crashing is good for the American people because then the American people get to pick and choose the good corporations that, won't go bankrupt. What kind of company, can't even make a profit these days? You're going to go bankrupt? You're going to let this little coronavirus scare you into submission? Oh, no, we're so scared. Now we got to lobby the government? I don't know any working class person that ever said, you know what, I'm going to go to the federal government and see if I can get me a bailout. I've never heard any working class person say that. So I'm partial to a lot of the social spending, but I do think as a liberal that saying they're spending too much money is important, and they are spending too much money. And these are the Republicans. They don't know what the fuck they're doing to begin with. So we already got a $23 trillion debt, and then we're going to put another $1 trillion on top of it. Will the poor people actually get it? Mitch McConnell says the poor people won't get any. So Kentucky's not going to see any of this money. So he don't give a shit if he fucks over the state of Kentucky. But that's just, politics, right? So you got $1 trillion, well, cut it out of the poor people. They don't vote, so it really won't hurt you politically. Rich people don't want handouts to poor people anyway. $600, hell, that'll be like, $1 million to those poor-ass homeless fucks, right? Kentucky, here's $600, Kentucky. Isn't that a lot of money? Aren't you happy? Don't you love Donald? Aren't you going to vote for Donald again, Kentucky? Kentucky is the most loyal state to Donald. They did throw out their Republican governors, so maybe that's, anyways. And then $50 billion of FEMA funds have been freed up because of the national emergency, so I wonder what that money is being used for. FEMA should be operational. Wall Street and these banks should, been getting these commercial papers or whatever the fuck, the $2.5 trillion, loans. They should have been able to do that, and pull themselves up out of their shit since they couldn't do it by themselves. You got to give the money to the people. You got to give the money to the people. We've already spent $8 billion, $100 billion. We've done this $2.5 trillion loans to the banks, and they're talking about $1 trillion. But we're going to give the federal cut a check directly to the American people. Everybody gets $1,000 for April. Everybody gets $1,000 in May, and then that's it. And then cut it off forever. But you could do it for 2 months, real simple, universal. Everybody gets a check. If you can prove you're an American, then you get a check. And that'd be probably, Donald Trump's face would go on Mount Rushmore if he actually did something like that. So let's see if he goes through with it. I think it'd be a good idea. I think it would be a good idea. It definitely would help. It'd stimulate the fuck out of the economy. It's a good idea. And it's a good idea for, my political, I want it to be bigger. But it's a good idea for the moment. For the moment, universal basic income, it's a good idea. It is a good idea. So right now it seems like the White House plan has got the best plan. The Democrat plan, I should take a closer look to see what they're pushing for. But it's really the White House and the Republicans, and the Democrats probably will go along, as long as they get a couple things. So yeah, them sums updates. March 20th, 2020, Friday, 1:10 p.m. Peace!